You know how they say that truth is often stranger than fiction? Well, I have a story kind of like that, and hopefully you have the time to listen, because there are some lessons in it. So, a couple weeks ago, I had to stay home from work because I lost my voice. And not only that, I was feeling a little bit lonely, or nostalgic, maybe both. And so I was messaging my friend, and one in particular. I knew him from when I was a teenager, and I had a really huge crush on him, and he kind of knew, but I guess in the end he had no idea. But anyway, I just put on his Facebook wall that, miss you, we should talk sometime. And he IM'd me his phone number, so I saved it. But we just IM'd for maybe an hour and a half, and in the course of our catching up, he told me that when we were kids, or when we knew each other, he really liked me. And my only reaction was, what the hell? Because I had no idea, and he never really gave me any indication. And from there we started talking and messaging and things like that, and in a weird way, it took me back to when I was a teenager and when I first met him. I was 14 and I was very pale and had dark hair, and I climbed up trees where I was writing and drawing, and for the longest time I always felt like I was outside looking in. Especially seeing my sister and my friends becoming romantically entwined, and wanting the same for myself. But it just seemed that most of the guys I knew were scared or intimidated. Well, they were definitely scared. Because on top of being kind of weird and goth, I also had a very, very sharp tongue and an opinion, and I wasn't afraid to use either. And so, again, I was just outside looking in, and this person, he was a friend, and he seemed to look past the hostility or the anger, and we were able to talk about anything and everything, and he also taught me self-defense. Because maybe in another life I was an Amazon. I don't know. But maybe after a year and a half or so, he moved. And it pretty much broke my heart because he never quite knew. I mean, the closest he did was one night he stayed over at my house. No, it's not like that. He just needed a place to crash, and we stayed up in my family's living room until about 2 or 3 in the morning, again, talking like we always did. And I hugged him very tightly, and then just went to bed. And the next morning, He made my family breakfast and helped me do the dishes. He was really, really a sweetheart. So he moved, and it broke my heart, and, I did try to let him know in my way then that I really liked him, and there you have it. And we stayed in touch here and there, but it wasn't until recently that we really had a chance to talk. And he tells me, and because you gotta understand, at that age, I just felt like I was this freak that nobody wanted, nobody could handle, nobody could understand, really. I mean, he was the closest I came to having anyone understand me, really. And he didn't seem afraid, and that's what made me like him. Because maybe he saw past all that. But he tells me that, the things that seem to scare away the other guys is what attracted him. And throughout the course of our conversations, I just asked, why didn't you say anything? And he said he was afraid of causing conflict between our tight-knit group of friends and my siblings, more in particular my older sister, who, may have had a little crush on him. I don't know. And, he also dated, a couple of my other friends, and I asked him, when you were dating my friends, were you wanting to be with me? And he said yes. And I look back, and there is certainly a different perspective. Had he said anything, would it have made any difference? Would I still have felt like I was this unlovable freak, and would it have taken me years and many hard-learned lessons, to figure out that I don't need anybody, and that I'm fine just the way I am. And if no one can handle me, they don't deserve me. I don't know, because what happened, and what didn't happen. And the funny thing is in our conversations, it brings a certain kind of hurt. And it's not entirely bad. But knowing that, the pain and the regret are both shared, I guess helps a little bit. And we each have our own lives now. And the weird, and I keep saying weird, because it is, but it's just odd. And I'll admit it is kind of a stroke to my ego to know that I'm going to be somebody's regret. That I'm the one he let get away, and he's the damned fool who let me get away. And as far as my writing goes, talking with him has really helped. And apparently my talking to him has helped him get past his writer's block. And among other things, I guess the emails that we've been sending back and forth are the letters we could have and perhaps should have sent to each other when we were kids. And in an oddly wonderful way, we're closer now than we've ever been. And in life, I guess we're lucky enough to find just one other person who truly gets us. And I know that I'm lucky to have found at least one person. So the moral of the story, boys and girls, is speak up. Please don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of no. Because what's the worst that could happen, right? So take a chance. Okay, best case scenario, you get a yes. And hopefully a lot more yeses after that. Worst case scenario, they say no. And that's that. And you move on. And maybe you'll find that someone who gets you. But you never know. And a lot is lost for a lack of asking. So, again, boys and girls, don't be afraid. And once again, no matter where or when you're listening to this, please have a good morning, a pleasant afternoon, a beautiful evening, and very, very sweet dreams. Goodbye.